For Denise, life is looking good again. After years of abuse and pain, she can finally enjoy all the little things that are so important when you're a 12-year-old teenager. But the safety of home is new, and the memories of past horrors are still fresh. Like all those times when her father would get angry at her, at her mother, at anything that crossed his path. As long as Denise can remember, her father had been both the loving dad and the frightening monster who would abuse his family.
Here you go.
Today, Denise and her mother, Christine, have found a safe haven away from the abuse. But their survival has come at a high price. Overly protective of her mother and always on the alert, Denise has been deprived of her own childhood. Innocence lost too soon.
I was totally in his control and power, you know. And it just got to the point where everything was so out of control, and I knew that if she and I did not remove ourselves from the situation, it was only going to get worse. And it was looking at the situation through her eyes that really made me come to realize that we're in a lot of trouble here. We have got to get out of here. And it was hard. No two ways about it. It was hard, but we did it.
Denise's father never beat her, but his behavior caused her deep anguish and pain. At a young age, she had to become her mother's protector.
He pulled guns out on her, and he used to punch holes in the walls and stuff, and he threw stuff at her, and he used to pull her hair and stuff, and he was really mean to her. And he used to always tell me, like, around Christmas and stuff, I'm gonna leave your mom after the holidays, I'm gonna leave you guys here, all this stuff, and I was just like, where is this coming from? Because this was never my dad before, you know? And like, he took all his anger out on us. It's good. Little bear, can't eat chocolate. I felt bad for my mom because, you know, she's my mom, and like seeing her cry and stuff made me really upset. Like, I used to write her notes and stuff about how I was gonna go to school having a nervous breakdown if something didn't get done, you know, and it made me feel really bad for her because I was her child. And then I didn't know what to think of my dad because, you know, he was doing all this stuff right in front of me, and he thought about his feelings instead of ours, and I just didn't think it was right at all. Because I don't want to grow up, you know, to have an abusive husband.
Denise was the one who always insisted that her mother leave. But like so many battered women, Christine could not break free from her abusive husband. Finally, after years of struggle, Christine accepted that she had a responsibility towards her child. She had to go.
It starts out really small at first, like you'll have a boundary and they'll cross it. And then they'll step back and say, I didn't mean to. And then you draw another boundary, and then they cross that. And then you get to the point where this boundary's crossed, this boundary's crossed. You have no boundaries left. Where do you go from the point of having a weapon in your life, you know, in your face, in your life? That's your last choice. What boundary can you draw after that? And looking at Denise and the notes that she was leaving me and knowing what she was going through finally gave me the strength to say, we're at the bottom here. There's no saving this. There's nothing I can do to save this. And when you come to the conclusion that things are only going to get worse, and now your child is at the point where not only you know it's been affecting her, but you see how it's affecting her, you know you have got to make that decision. You have got to go. Whether the police take it out of your hands or you decide to take control of the situation yourself, just go.
The Domestic Violence Division of the Nashville Police Department offers counseling and support to victims. Heidi Bennett is a social worker with the unit, and she sees Christine and Denise on a regular basis.
Initially, the concerns that she addressed and her mother addressed were symptoms very indicative of post-traumatic stress, such as hypervigilance, just feeling like you have to be on a heightened state of alert all around you, restlessness. She startled easily. She had difficulty sleeping at night, sleeping alone at night. she had concerns that something was going to happen to her, particularly to her mother. And so that caused her to be probably clingier and, just wanting to hover over her mother. She was very protective of her mother. As you might see, she's pretty much a good example of what we would call the parentified child. She has found a way to anticipate the chaos and the violence and the abuse by maturing, at an amazing rate. She's really accelerated, as you can tell. And that is a way for her to have some sense of control over things.
Oh, right, Chloe?
Sometimes I feel like she's been cheated out of part of her childhood because she has been this way for years. Her worrying about me rather than the normal things that children should worry about. Yet, I truly believe that the counseling has helped her to handle some of the difficult things that she saw, some of the things that she witnessed, and helped her to balance. I think she'll always be protective of me.
I gotta be strong for my mom because when I'm hurting, my mom hurts, and I know that. And if I'm not strong, then she's not gonna be strong, and then we're just gonna be a mess again. So being strong for her is one of the most important things, and me protecting her because I don't want her to be in another situation like she was really helps me. And I remember one time she ended up getting back together with him. I was sitting by I remember I had this big collection of this German tote of stickers. I mean, I loved stickers. My mom came up, she's like, I need to talk to you. And I was like, okay, Mommy, I'm looking through my stickers. And she goes, me and your father came back together. I said, what? And I threw all my stickers. And I go, Mommy, he's crazy. I was crying, and I was just like, I was so upset. I was like, you're crazy. You can't do this to me, We got to get out of here, Mommy. And she's like, no, honey. And she goes, you don't talk to me like that. And I said, Mommy, I don't care what I'm talking to you like right now. You need to get out of this situation. I was just freaking out. I think I was 9 then, and it was so horrible. And I was right. 5 days after that, he went crazy again.
Leaving ended the abuse, but Denise's father is still a part of her life. He calls and emails her, trying to turn her against her mother. This is difficult for Denise, and she is often conflicted about his role in her life.
I love him, but I don't have respect for him. Because it's hard to respect someone that, was so bad your whole life that you can't respect him. There's a part of me that wants him to be in my life. There's another part of me that says just go away, because if you're gonna cause all this trauma and this hurt in my life, then I just can't deal with you. It's hard, but I do it.
Denise found herself in an emotional tug of war where, she loved her father and she was able to discuss those feelings, but she also knew that her father had committed some acts that she had seen with her own eyes that were just heinous, and she had a difficult time reconciling with those two different feelings. So she had a lot of conflicted feelings, and counseling, I believe, afforded her an opportunity to be able to identify and sort out those feelings.
Now I have the courage to stand up to him. Like, when he says something to me about my mom, I'll just be like, Dad, I don't want to hear it because you're the one who put us in this situation. It's your fault. And, when I came back from New York, he called me and he was saying all this stuff, and I went off on him totally. Like, I was like, I don't want to hear it, Dad. Don't play your little pity me. It's your fault that we're here. We would have everything if you didn't start that stuff with Mom. And I was just like, you're crazy. If you're going to act like this, I don't count you as my father. And it was hard after that, but I just felt like, finally he knows it's his fault, and I understand. I'm seeing it through him. He can't play, little Denise doesn't know anything anymore when I know everything that he's done.
For Christine and Denise, life is beginning to have a sense of normalcy again. Christine has a good job. Denise likes her school. Looking back, Christine struggles with the realization that she had to fall so low before she could do what she now knows was the only right thing.
No matter what you do or how you try to protect your children, they're not safe, and neither are you. And you end up leaving for that ultimate same reason, to keep your children safe, to keep yourself safe, and to show them what is right, what is normal, what is acceptable, and what isn't. If you stay in a situation like that, your children subconsciously are going to say, well, Mom lived through it, Mom did okay, or we made it, so, it must be normal. Well, it's not normal. There's nothing normal about it. The problem is you get so caught up in this dysfunctional life that you forget what's normal. Then when you get outside of it and you take a step and a step and a step and a step, the further you get away, the more you realize how abnormal things were. And you're just so grateful to have this calm, drama-free life that your child can thrive in. And you can watch your child thrive and grow and know what normal is.
Denise has a great sense of optimism, and for her, I see that she will be able to accomplish everything that she wants to do. We have to be mindful of the fact that she's not going to become her own worst enemy, because perfectionism can occur with children who have kind of taken this route instead of the acting out, more negative behaviors. It could be that she could be very difficult on herself in life. So that's one of the things I think that she and her mother are mindful of, and they'll recognize that, it's okay to fail at times because we learn through failures. I think she's gonna need some of that.
All the faces have slowly faded, all the blanks have been shaded. I'm walking down this desolate road, trying to find my setting, my mode. I know I'll make it, but what for? And when I get there, will it be the right door? Pieces and images missing and shattered. Can I pick them up and have them gathered? Can I find myself and my soul? Will I lose control and fall in a hole? I can never have what I really wanted. My hopes, wishes, and prayers to above. I've been to so many therapists and psychologists and all that, and just never really helped me as much as just sitting down and getting it out what I really have to say. Because I couldn't really ever just open up to people. I was just too scared to open up to people. And when I sit down here by myself and just write by myself, and just everything gets out, I don't have to worry about what I'm saying. I can say whatever I want, however I feel, and it just helps me a lot. So.
Catland is also a survivor of domestic abuse, but his path is very different from that of Denise. Catland has gone down a road of self-doubt and destruction for most of his life. As a toddler, he was neglected by his mother and beaten by his mother's boyfriend. His Aunt Christina rescued him when he was a young boy and became his legal guardian. Christina has given Catland a home and helped him to deal with his inner demons.
When he was a little boy, every time he did something bad, I'd make him get paper and write. We started out, you had to write, "I am a good boy," 100 times. Do you remember that?
Yeah, jeez.
But I would make him, because I didn't want him
That was the worst punishment.
I didn't want him to equate his behavior with who he was as a person. I wanted that to be separate, and I would make him write every time he had a bad day. And then he just started doing this. He went far beyond what I would have ever imagined you could do.
I draw and I play guitar, and those are good outlets for me too. I just love doing them. I don't know, it's just, I like filling my time with stuff like that.
I'll tell you something about his artwork and his poetry. It saved his life a lot of times, because I did a lot of room searches and I found a lot of stuff that was disturbing, and at that point I could work on helping him, because I didn't always know what was going on in his head. But when I would find a drawing that you got some pretty scary drawings, and the poetry, some of it would be, really bad. So that's when I knew I needed to do something. It was getting too bad.
The trauma in Catland's childhood shattered his sense of self and basic trust in life. He suffers from anxiety, fear, and shame, all common symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder.
I can't remember a lot of it. I think my mind tries to block it out. No, I don't know. I think that happens with a lot of kids. Their brain just tries to forget it, but I remember them always fighting, him chasing her through the house and smashing her into the wall and getting pissed that dinner wasn't ready and throwing stuff and screaming at me, and he would come back. He would get mad at my mom and come take it out on me. I don't know.
Catlin's relationship with Christina has been a source of resentment and jealousy for his biological mother. Although she couldn't take care of him, she made him feel guilty for living with Christina. This has created more pain and added confusion for Catlin.
She would tell him, if it weren't for your aunt, we could be a family. You know, your aunt didn't want to have children of her own, so she took you. She's using you as a social experiment to prove that you can take children away from their biological parents and they'll still turn out okay. This all made him very angry at me, and it was a constant thing. But then she would disappoint him, like not send him a birthday card. She didn't call him for graduation, you know, just to hurt him, because she knows that that's important to him. A few years back, he had said, if you just give up the control and quit being a freak about it, I could go live with my mom. And I said, okay, I relent. I said, I don't want to, but if you tell your mom to go get the papers, I'll sign them. Because all my sister ever had to do is take a parenting class to have him back. That's all she ever had to do. But she let me take the blame. So what she did was, he called her all excited. I can come home, I can come home. And she said, I'm not sure, Catlin, you made my life hell. I don't think I want you.
The repeated rejection by his mother sent Catlin into a downward spin, week-long alcohol and drug binges, and a suicide attempt. When he was at rock bottom, his father committed suicide.
I don't know what was going through his head when it stuck the barrel in his mouth and changed from live to dead. The police couldn't get there in enough time. By the time they pulled up, he lay in a puddle of bloody slime. That's the most selfish thing a parent can do. He should have thought of Bobby Joe before he cocked and blew. He was never my dad anyways, but I'm still half of him, and I don't know what to say. For if hell is real, he is in a corrupted world.
Christina herself is a survivor of domestic violence. She watched her mother suffer at the hands of her father, and later in life, she was beaten by her own husband. In contrast to her sister, who has not been able to break the cycle of violence, Christina has overcome her past and has made a profession out of helping victims of family violence.
I started because I said, how does someone smart and confident and competent as me get into something like this? How did this happen to me? And it was basically, I watched my parents do it, and it was normal. It was just an average part of life. And, you know, well, maybe I deserved that because I was flirting with somebody, or maybe I said good morning the wrong way and I knew he was uptight, you know, things like that. You know, you start to take the ownership of the abuse. So I basically said, this happened in my childhood, and if I want to see the cycle broken, we can't focus on the adults as much. We have to focus on the kids. We asked the victim why she stays. One of the things we can do if we want to help change things is ask, why does the batterer hit?
Christina is a well-respected author and speaker on family violence, especially its effects on children. She is convinced that if we treat the children and help them to heal, we as a society can also heal.
I say to people, you can take a child out of a violent environment, but it'll take years to take the violent environment out of the child. And what our system does so often is once you leave, they think everything's going to be okay, and then the ball is dropped. And that's when the real work begins, because this will be the first time that the kids will be able to emote. So they're going to go from being completely passive to completely aggressive to try to get these feelings out. And I think what we have to do is make parents understand that everything they do and say impacts their children.
All I want is to get along, but I guess I feel like I don't belong. I feel like I have no one to care, but then I sit and think you were always there to help me out with anything I needed, quick to forgive every time I pleaded. So I guess my mind likes to play tricks on me, covering my eyes with...
Catlin knows that Christina has given him a second chance in life, but he still misses his biological mother and maintains contact with her. One of the things he struggles with is leaving his brother and sister behind when he went to live with Christina.
I think a lot of my depression throughout my whole life is due to like me getting taken out of that home, and my brother and my sister, they had to stay there, and that just really, it's like survivor's guilt, kind of. Like, I don't know, it's like, why should I deserve to have a good life and be away from there, and the state won't do nothing about those two. It's like unbelievable. I don't know. It's felt bad, cause you know I knew I had it good, and my sister would call me, crying, screaming, "Mom's running," and Mom's running away from Kevin, and he beat her real bad, and I'm scared, and I'm locked in my room, and I don't know what to do, and just crazy stuff. Like, and I'm so far away. I'm like on the other end of the phone. Like, what the hell can I do? You know.
There is one thing that Catlin feels he can do to make amends, and that is to take good care of his own son. He spends time with Kai whenever possible, but was not able to maintain a relationship with Kai's mother. This difficulty in sustaining a trusting relationship is part of the trauma he experienced as a child.
Definitely, I found my place with my child. That's my place. That's my world now, so that's all I really think about, you know, really care about. It's like I don't really even care as much about myself, you know. I just gotta look after him now, so.
At 19, Catlin is beginning to take control of his own life. He has a job and is enrolled in college. Eventually, he wants to be a writer. But most of all, he wants to be a role model for Kai so that the cycle of violence will finally be broken.
I hold my head up high, release my sigh, no longer crying inside, don't want to die. I walk on and find a fork in the road, seeing that I've reaped what I've sowed. No doubts, no shouts, I now choose wisely. Don't have hate, no one can despise me. I know which way my path goes, now I will follow the route that I have chose. The ending is for my son, because I no longer have to hide, I don't have to want to die, you know, I have a reason to live now, so, yeah.
Get ready to charge! Charge!
Josh and Ophelia are playing their SWAT team game, protecting themselves and their mother from the enemy. The effects of growing up with their abusive stepfather are present even in their playing. Vivid memories remain of him. To the outside world, he was a well-respected minister. But at home, he was a monster, slashing mattresses, punching holes in the walls, having to ask his permission to even use the bathroom. And then the memory of the night Larry promised he would change. Instead, he went on a drunken, violent rampage, tearing the house apart, knocking out the electricity, leaving them in the dark.
My kids are trembling because he had just promised them that he was going to be a better man. And I couldn't take that any further. You know, my promise to my children is they will never have to grow up in a hostile situation. Never. And he did this. He broke his word. And he turned on them just as much as he turned on me. You know, so we're sitting there in the dark. Sitting there in the dark, and I was afraid to even light my candle. You know, we probably sat in the dark an hour. I told them, I said, don't move, just don't move. I'm right here. Just be still. I'm right here. I can hear her feel you breathing. Mom, I'm scared. And all I could think about was Joshua, ready to run away.
Mary knew she had to get out if she and her children were to survive. With just the clothes on their backs, Mary, Josh, and Ophelia ran away from home. They moved into a shelter where they could find help and decide what to do next.
They were just great people. They helped us to settle in, gave the kids everything they needed, helped me to settle in, gave us resources where we could get things to help us, and it was good. It was good. We were there 54 days, and then he found us.
They escaped, again, to a new state, putting as many miles as possible between them and the husband and stepfather who had become their perpetrator. They're presently living in a small apartment, adjusting and starting their lives over again.
It's still painful. You know, the memories don't go away. The idea of what we've gone through doesn't change, but the objective is to go forward and strong. And that is our family motto. We set that up when we first went into the shelter. Forward and strong, because looking back doesn't get us anywhere. You know, we want to take what was behind us and build from it and be better people because of it.
Ophelia and Josh try to act like normal 12 and 14-year-old kids, but putting their past behind them is a huge undertaking. They both are extremely fearful that their stepfather will find them. Josh is constantly on guard, spending his free time studying military and SWAT team tactics. He fantasizes how he will protect his mother and sister if the enemy appears.
My plan is to get the SWAT team together so in case he does come, I'll have it under control. You know, a little citizen's arrest. Yeah, I bought some handcuffs, especially for him. Yeah, $8 at the Army surplus store. So, yeah. I'm gonna be ready.
Follow me! Go!
Watching him want to just protect in such a way that sometimes I think that he's kind of rubbed at that line between fantasy and reality, where you play as a child, let's play cowboys and Indians, but he wants the real stuff, you know, and it scares me a little bit because I feel like, okay, he's young, he can't say what he wants to say. His fun, his joy, all that's being stifled, and now he's like bursting at the seams to do something.
Ophelia, on the other hand, is quiet and reserved. Her fear and anxiety come out in terrifying dreams. She's horrified that Larry is going to come and take her away.
We were at an apartment, and it has stairs, so I think we had a party or something, and we invited people, and so we never noticed he was there. We didn't know that he had already set grenades around the house, so next thing, only time we knew he was there was when he passed the window.
The main time that I hear that she is uncomfortable is when she's had a dream. And she'll get up and she'll say, Mama had a bad dream. I said, okay, you want to share it? And then she's hesitant to share it. It's not something she wants to just open up and say. And then when she does talk to me, it is about someone finding her, you know, and we know who that someone would be, but it's never expressed as that someone. They don't call his name. He's a he. We hate him, you know. And so with her, I had a bad dream. And then when I do get her to talk to me, I dreamed that someone broke the door down and took me. I said, were you the only one they took? She said, yeah, they took me.
Because Ophelia has a difficult time expressing her fears, it is in her journal where she reveals her lost innocence and her innermost feelings.
In journaling, she writes about her heart. My heart is gone. I've lost my heart. I'm a little girl who has no heart. And I ask her about that. I say, your heart is still there. I say, it's how you believe in things. So I'm encouraging her to have positive thoughts. We have left that situation. I want them to feel that we have left it. It's behind us. I tell them I have unfinished business. I said, but we've left that situation. We're doing better. We're focusing on things that's going to help us to be stronger people.
Annie Goodhue is a volunteer child care facilitator with the YWCA. Annie works with children of family violence, and she sees Josh in group sessions once a week.
My goal is to walk in Josh's world, and whatever language Josh is speaking, for me to learn that language and speak it back to him. And so if I want him to trust me, I have to show him that I trust him, So he might mention something while we're playing basketball, and I'll hear that and I'll say, well, what do you mean by that, Josh? What happened that made you feel that way? So I'm trying to respond to something I pick up on some of his feelings, and that way he knows he's being heard. I care enough to hear what he's saying and ask him about that.
With Annie's support, Ophelia is learning how to trust again, but she needs to be constantly reassured that she is safe.
With Ophelia, she is an incredibly loving little girl. And the attention, she loves the attention, she loves the reassurance. And she, after our first meeting, usually when we leave before our next meeting next week, I'll say, can I give you a hug? And so I asked her that, and she said yes, and we gave hugs. And the next week she comes in, and she couldn't wait to give us hugs, and she latches on and holds on. And so really that's kind of what I see in her. It's just the real need for reassurance and attention, and you're safe and everything's okay,
I want to be in the Army National Guard, but I gotta wait till I'm 17 to do that. But I've watched cop shows, about SWAT team movies, get the gist of it, and I try to take it into consideration that it's real stuff. I want to do it too. I don't do it just for the badge and the gun, go around being big and bad, because some of them are dirty cops. I don't serve and protect the country. Then after do that, I might want to work for Secret Service, because I want to play in big roles, be a hero, instead of the thief. So I want to be a hero.
You would have that feeling of wanting, particularly in this case, protect your mother, your sister, or even yourself. And there's a lot of guilt and feeling of responsibility with children in these situations, which is something that we'd like to try and pass on to them, that we are only responsible for our own feelings. We are not responsible for anyone else's feelings. That is really, really important, for them to understand, because that affects their self-esteem and how they look at themselves,
Spending time with Annie offers Josh and Ophelia an opportunity to express their feelings and deal with the trauma they've experienced. The goal is to break the cycle of violence.
If a child was on fire, you would run over and put him out. And they're on fire, and we just can't see it. I mean, that's really how serious I feel this is. That's what keeps the cycle going. That's, we could actually end these cycles of abuse and violence if we could get to the child's level and see how they literally are hurting so badly. And since it's not a physically visible thing, like a bruise or a gash on your head or something, we just don't tend to, it's just not attended to the way it should be. And I feel like that's the whole reason the cycle just continues on.
Mary's strong desire to break the cycle for herself and for her children has empowered her to go back to school. She now lives her life not as a victim, but as a survivor, and speaks openly about it.
I want to talk about it. When I started school, I introduced myself as a survivor. I said, I am a survivor of domestic violence. And this is something I'm doing for me. And you're surprised at people that have another little story to share about that when you break the ice on it. And I told my teacher, I said, I don't want to be ashamed of it. I don't want to be ashamed that this happened to me, because you can be, and you can be quiet about it. And when we kind of turn this over toward African American women, yeah, you become ashamed that your man beats you or takes something from you. Larry didn't beat me, but my pains were just as bad, And you want this hush-hush because you want to appear as a strong woman. You want to be that strong mother. You want to look like that strong sister who's got it going on. You want your mom and your parents to know that, yeah, I chose a good man and we're doing this together. You want that image. You want that image of success.
But if the image of a happy home is just an illusion, the only option is to leave. If not for your own sake, then for the sake of your children.
They don't know what's going on, so they're curious, and they'll sit and observe, and they'll just hear, and then they'll probably keep remembering that, because as you're a kid, you're supposed to say you have good memory, so they'll probably remember that, and probably get aggressive too when they see what's going on, because they think it's what you're supposed to do as a parent. So when they turn big, they're probably gonna do it not knowing that it was wrong, because they saw their mom and dad doing that. So I think it affects kids because they don't know what they're looking at, so they might imitate it, not knowing that it's bad and affecting their lives as well.
Mary, Josh, and Ophelia are following their motto, forward and strong. Ophelia wrote it on a piece of cardboard, and they've put it where they can see it every day. It's a reminder of the terror they've left behind, and an affirmation for the life they are rebuilding as survivors of domestic violence.
August 24th would be 22 calendar years in prison. No break, no relief, no go, $200, nothing, just straight time.
The Charles Bass Correctional Complex in Nashville, Tennessee, is a transitional program for inmates who have served the majority of their sentence. Here, prisoners are given the opportunity to attend counseling and participate in work programs that prepare them for their re-entry into society. Sandy Womack is serving a 20-year sentence for armed robbery. Extensive therapy while in prison has helped him to understand the impact his childhood trauma has had on his life.
The abuse, physical and sexual abuse, in my life were the root of every single thing that I had wrong in my life, that went wrong. And I have no excuse for taking anything from anybody that doesn't belong to me. But I do have a reason for how I got to that point. And that's the child abuse and the sexual abuse. They led to each and every crime and each and every violent behavior that I had. And there's no way in the world anybody could ever make me believe anything different. I know this. I found this out by reaching in and looking inside myself. That's where it stems from.
When Sandy first entered prison in his early 20s, he was a young man full of rage. He had grown up in a violent home, was in and out of foster care, and dropped out of school. It all goes back to one traumatic episode when he was 8 years old.
It was cold. I don't know why it was so cold, because we had a wood-burning stove, but it was cold and the stove was not working. And the argument began over wood for the stove. I don't know if it wasn't any, if it gone out, what had happened. But the argument began over that. And my mom got hit in the head with a stick of the wood, you know, over the argument they were having over that. And it just kept on escalating, and this time we weren't brushed out of the room. It was like we weren't even in the room. And my little sister was crying, and my little brother was crying, and I don't know why, but I wasn't crying. I was like trying to watch what was going on or something. And my dad just went in the bedroom and came out and took a pistol and put it against her forehead and pulled the trigger and then put it in his mouth and shot himself. Never said a word. Right there in the living room. Nobody else around, nobody, you know, to say it's gonna be okay. Nobody, you know, what do you do? That was the end of it. What do you do? You got two little brothers, a little brother, a little sister there. We got, what do you do? I didn't do nothing. That's about it.
After the death of his parents, Sandy was put into foster care. His uncle would take him out on the weekends, but what should have been family time turned out to be more abuse.
He started taking us out fishing, and then he'd send the other two over there to fish in the pond, a little thing of water that didn't even have fish in it, and he would go over and molest me at the truck. For money. I'd get money, or I'd get, you know, something, usually a toy. And, you know, it's just like I had this big sign around my neck that said, if you need to molest a kid, I'm the one. Because they just pick up on it. I don't know how they do that. They just pick up on it. And every time that I would go to one of these homes, the people that ran the homes would end up being the molesters then, because there was no screening process. There was nothing that, you know, you just said, well, you know, I'd like to do that. Well, sign up right here. It's like volunteering for the dadgum National Guard or something, you know. They take anybody.
The first years of prison, Sandy was fighting the system and everyone in it. During a violent altercation with another inmate, it suddenly hit him. He had to change or his past would kill him. This was the beginning of many years of counseling and soul searching.
It was a safe haven. It was a place where I could go and deal with these issues of molestation of my dad, mom, and everything. I could deal with that in my own way, in my own time. And that's when the change started. That's when I met me for the first time. And I'm a pretty good guy. I really am. I enjoyed myself to the point to where I could be honest and I could say, you know, I'm not so bad. I need to deal with this. I need to deal with that. And that's when it started.
The transitional facility here at the Charles Bass Correctional Complex offers Genesis, an intensive therapeutic program which encourages inmates to look at themselves and take responsibility for their own actions. Rayanne Coughlin helped develop the Genesis program and has counseled Sandy in the past.
The trauma he went through is just unimaginable. The fact that he could recover without any kind of treatment intervention would just be amazing to me. I believe he's, through the Genesis program and some programs prior to that, he has had an opportunity to deal with some of his issues, which of course is going to increase his chance for success. As I said, you know, I just can't even imagine surviving what he survived and something that'll be with him his entire life.
To this day, I have to scrub my hands till they bleed, you know, to just try to get clean when you get to thinking about things, you know. It's just a psychological problem. But I'm good. I mean, I'm good now, but it took a long time. I'm 45 years old here in a few days. And that's a shame for somebody to have to go that long, you know, to get well or almost well. It's a shame, but that's what it does. It never goes away.
the scary thing is they don't even realize that they've experienced trauma. They think their childhood was normal. You think every father beats the mother. You don't realize that in other households that doesn't happen. And when they discover that they didn't have a normal childhood, it's almost as traumatic as living through the dysfunctional childhood. It's very hard to say, my parents or my life.
At 5 years old, I just thought that's the way it was. So if I hadn't gotten away from that way of thinking and had a place where that prison is an unfortunate and sad, sad place. But you know, the word penitentiary is house of repent, is what it means. And when you come and you repent, then you break, you have a place, a haven, if you will, to break that cycle, to stop it there, because prison now has those programs in place to help you realize what those cycles are, to realize what those warning signs are. You know, in the victim impact class, we have, you know, a list of what these warning signs are. And sometimes you look at it and say, well, you know, I was right there.
Someone like Mr. Womack, in my opinion, just needs to be accepted, to offer some encouragement and hope and support, and he can overcome a lot of this. But, you know, we as a society tend to reject convicted felons, not accept them, not encourage them. And that's my hope for him, that he just has a tremendous amount of support when he gets released and is accepted back into the community.
After 20 years of hard time, Sandy has paid his dues for the crimes he committed. His place in society will depend on how much he has been able to deal with the trauma that was perpetrated upon him as a child. If the rage that leads trauma victims down their destructive paths is not dealt with, they will continue their collision course with society. For Sandy, prison has provided him with the intervention needed to come to terms with his past.
Things happen for the best sometimes. And I think that if I hadn't come to prison when I did, that who knows what kind of abuse would have come up. Who knows what cycle wouldn't have been broken, because that was instilled in me. But breaking the cycle is something that you have to first realize that you want to do. If you don't consciously seek out a way to break it, it's going to always be there, and you're going to end up being that person you hate so bad. And that's, you know, that's sad.
Christine and Denise, Catlin and Christina, Mary, Josh, Ophelia, and Sandy are taking control of their destinies. By courageously speaking the truth, they are breaking the silence. And when the silence is broken, shame can no longer thrive and healing can begin. Every year in America, approximately 3 million children witness violence in their own home. It will take all of our voices speaking out against family violence. Only then will we go forward and strong towards ending this vicious cycle of abuse.